This week on Destination Insight, we take an insight into suicide in Northern Ireland. We will be speaking to a lady whose son took his own life just 8 months ago. She shares her story of hope since his death. We will be speaking to a man from Belfast who was once within moments of taking his own life. He tells us why he made the decision not to take his own life and the inspirational journey he has taken since pursuing his passion. Destination Insight, Friday, 7 p.m. Hello and welcome to this evening's Destination Insight with me, Rory Smith. On this evening's show, we will be taking an insight into suicide in Northern Ireland. We'll be speaking to one woman from Kilkeel who lost her son in December after taking his own life. She will be telling us her story and what she is doing to raise the awareness of suicide in Northern Ireland. We will also be joined in the studio by a man from Belfast who was once within seconds of taking his own life, even going round his friends and family to say goodbye. He shares his story this evening. But first, let's have a look at suicide prevention.
I have my ups and downs, just like anybody else.
Maybe more than anybody else.
I can be hard to figure out.
And I like my privacy.
I don't want you looking over my shoulder all the time.
But you know your kid better than anybody else. And if you think he's acting different than usual...
Acting really down, crying all the time for no good reason.
Or getting really mad.
Not able to sleep, or sleeping too much.
Shutting her friends out or giving her stuff away.
Acting reckless, drinking, using drugs, staying out late.
Suddenly not doing stuff he used to love.
Or doing stuff that's just not like him.
It might be nothing to worry about. It might just be high school.
Or it might be something more. He might be depressed.
Not just feeling down, really depressed.
It might be that your kid is thinking about killing himself.
It happens. More than you think. More than it should.
And people say, I had no idea.
I thought it was just a phase he was going through.
I never thought she'd do it.
I wish he'd come to me.
I wish he'd said something.
I wish I'd said something.
When it's too late. So if you think your kid's acting different, if she seems like a different person, say something.
Say, what's wrong? How can I help?
And ask straight out. Are you thinking about killing yourself?
It doesn't hurt to ask. In fact, it helps.
When people are thinking about killing themselves, they want somebody to ask.
They want somebody to care.
Maybe you're afraid you'll make it worse if you ask. Like, you'll put the idea in their head.
Believe me, it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't hurt to ask.
In fact, the best way to keep a teenager from killing herself is to ask, are you thinking about killing yourself?
And what if they say yes?
Or maybe.
Or sometimes,
Well, here's what you don't say.
That's crazy.
Don't be such a drama queen.
you're making too much of this.
That boy's not worth killing
Yourself.
over.
That's not going to solve anything.
You're just trying to get attention.
You're not going to kill yourself.
What you do say is,
I'm sorry you're feeling so bad.
How can I help?
We'll get through this together.
Let's keep you safe.
A lot of people think about killing themselves. Adults and kids.
most of them never try it, but some of them do. So if your kid says,
I'd be better off dead.
I can't live with
I'm
this.
gonna kill myself,
Take her seriously. Find someone she can talk to about it. Someone who knows how to help.
Sometimes kids want to kill themselves because something happened. A breakup, a failure.
But sometimes it goes deeper, and it's not going to go away by itself.
Get some help. Talk to your doctor.
Or a counselor at school.
Or your minister.
but don't just let it drop.
And make sure that your kid always has someone to turn to. Someone he trusts.
Make a list together, right then. 3, 4, 5 names.
Put a suicide hotline number on there too.
Have him keep that list in his wallet, so he always knows where to turn.
Make sure your home is safe.
If you have pills she could use to hurt herself, lock them up.
If you have a gun, don't just lock it up. Get it out of the house. The bullets, too.
And one more thing. If you think your kid might be about to hurt himself, don't leave him alone.
Take him to the emergency room.
Call 911 if you have to.
We all have our ups and downs, but sometimes it's more than that.
If you think something's wrong, the only way to find out is to ask.
Ask straight out. Are you thinking about killing yourself?
Don't wait until you're sure. Trust your gut.
Because it never hurts to ask.
And it can make a big difference.
All the difference.
In your kid's life.
Now, Grace Balance, the mother of Kilkeel fisherman William Balance, is doing a skydive to raise money for Pips and in memory of her son who passed away in December. And Grace is with me now. Welcome
Hello.
to the show, Grace. Thank you
Hi.
for coming down. So, Grace, your son William Balance passed away in December after he had taken his own life.
Yes.
So, could you describe for me the person that William was?
Well, William was a very fun-loving person. He was a fisherman. He had his own wee boat and he enjoyed going in and out fishing and spent a lot of time at the harbour with his friends. He had lots and lots of friends, and William was one of these people, was just the life and soul of the party. No matter where he went, he was
So he's always outgoing and
outgoing,
always out there.
and everybody enjoyed his company. And
Was there any signs at all that this would have been in his nature, thinking back?
well, thinking back, William previously had self-harmed. He was being bullied for years, and he would, at the time of when every episode of bullying come up, he seemed to go on a downer, and then he come back round again, and he just always thought, you know, it's just like everybody else. Maybe he was just having down days, and you wouldn't have thought he was going to take his own life.
You wouldn't have thought it would have been as serious as it was.
No, as a matter of fact, William, before he died, he had really started to look after himself and was really eating healthy, and he'd lost 3 stone.
Right.
And he was quite heavy at a time, and he was always shaved and aftershave and whatever on him. I don't know what that was all about. But
Right.
no, it was very unexpected at the time it did
I
happen.
mean, he was even, you know, he was very much into his fishing, and he was he's preparing to invest in a larger boat at that stage as well, wasn't he?
Yes, him and his father had made arrangements, and William knew he was getting a bigger boat, and
So he was taking responsibility and really looking forward
Yeah.
to all these different things that were happening. And on December the 15th then was when William sadly took his own life. Tell me about this time.
well, William had been in my house that Saturday night, that had been the 14th, with a female friend of his and my younger daughter, and they were planning on going out, so they went out and they went down to the bar, and whatever happened down there, the girlfriend and him, well, not really, she wasn't his girlfriend,
Yeah,
it was
female
friend. They ended up, the company split up, she went home, and William had quite a bit to drink. And he had met, there's a friend of his drives a taxi, and he had been talking to William about 1:30, and he said he was perfectly fine. He was in the car with him and he had a cigarette and whatever, and he had texted his female friend to tell her his thoughts, and then he rang and had a 7-minute conversation with his friend, and he said he was on a fishing boat, and the next day William didn't turn up. He'd come home, and then his friend, his female friend, was on the phone looking for him to see did anybody know where he was at, and that's when the alarm was raised. And I started to go around his friends, see did anybody see him, because William was one of these characters, if there was a party on, he was going, like, and I just thought to myself, well, he's went to a party, he'll be home. But unfortunately, at about 3:15, my brother Andrew had come into my house, and after being round the friends, I said to Andrew, we'll go to the harbour and take a look. And Andrew noticed the hatch of one of the boats open, and he went down in and he found William. He had hung himself. But very unexpected.
You were shocked at it.
Totally shocked. But I as a mother, I knew when he didn't come home and none of the friends had seen him, that's when reality hit to me. William's maybe not been as well as what I thought. And my brother went down and I was sitting in the car on the quayside, and he came up and I knew when he looked at me, the way he looked, that William was dead.
How did you feel in the hours that followed?
Totally numb, shocked, not even just in the hours, in the days, the weeks, even the months. It's really only now, it's actually 8 months today, the 15th, that since William took his own life. And I have a wee grandson, and he was 4 months when William died, and he has been our rock and kept us going throughout this. But you just feel your whole life's just fell apart, shattered.
It's been very hard. It's been a hard journey since then.
Very hard journey.
And in order to cope with that, you have got involved with PIPS.
Yes, well, PIPS rang me a few weeks after William had took his own life, and they come out to the house with an information pack and things and advice, you know, on what their services were. So I started to attend PIPS and went for different therapies, and PIPS are always, you know, on the end of the phone. Even if you're having a down day and you want to chat, you have numbers of some of the volunteers, and you can just ring up and have a chat. And
how has PIPS helped you over the last 8 months?
PIPS has been my lifeline. Really have been, because there's so many days you feel, well, I feel that I can understand William. Life just feels that hard for me some days, that I think to myself, I'd be better not here. And then people say you think of who you would leave behind, but that's not really, you're not thinking of who you would be leaving behind, but you just have the sense to either ring a friend, ring PIPS or Lifeline or somebody.
And when you lift the phone and you ring PIPS, how does that change your mood?
Well, they have dealt so much with people, you know, who have had, they're even dealing with people who are thinking along the lines of suicide prevention. You know, there's minutes a day I have felt, people think depression, I have depression and have had this for years, but I'm on medication, and people think when you have to ring some of these services like of PIPS, that it's a taboo with it. You know, something to be ashamed of, that depression's something to be ashamed of, but it's not. But when I would ring them, I always feel better, like a weight lifted off me.
Every time?
Every time.
And, I mean, your brother, Andrew McConnell, and yourself now, you are even organising a skydive in Coleraine on Saturday the 27th of September in order to raise money. And is this for PIPS?
Yes.
It is for PIPS. What makes you now try and cope with your life through these experiences?
Well, the last thing I ever thought I would be doing a skydive. And I feel it's a real challenge, and it's making people aware of what PIPS is, what PIPS can do for people, that PIPS is just not there for families who have been bereaved, that it is there to help people who are in difficulty with their mind or just their whole mood.
And it certainly helped you as well.
Yep.
You have raised over £3,000 for PIPS through your Just Giving page. And you're also involved with Mind Your Mate. Tell me a bit about Mind Your Mate.
Well, PIPS and Mind Your Mate, they're all one charity. It's all combined together, and I think until this experience really hits your own home, it's like everything else. You're not thinking of, you hear tell of PIPs and you hear tell of whatever charity it is, and it's just so important to us when we realise the help and the services that we have been given as a family. The awareness is there that they need to be financed. You know, these things don't come for nothing, and they're, as I say, they're just a complete blessing to our family.
Does giving back something like this for you, giving back to PIPs, giving back to the community, help you in some ways to cope with your grief?
It does. You really do. You have to show your it's a way of showing your appreciation to there's so many volunteers that go in there to PIPs and give up their time, and we would meet on a Wednesday night, and it's really all of the group that meet up. Like, it's open. I go to one down in Newcastle, but it's open for anybody to drop in, and it's not all about death and things like that. We've really met up with we've a good group of friends now, and we meet up, and everybody does be asked, well, how was your week? Or
It's a support system.
a support.
And for anybody who finds themselves in a situation similar to yourself, to the experiences that you have lived through, what would be your message to anyone who's watching who has experienced what you have?
Well, my message to them would be that some days you just feel as if you want to be with the person you've lost. But life now is, you just take one day at a time. And you do get, when you've had a really bad day, you do learn that tomorrow's a new day. You ring some of your friends or ring PIPs to get you through that day.
How important is it to tell someone how you're feeling?
Very, very important to tell someone how you're feeling. It's, as they used to say, a problem shared is a problem halved. It is very, very important to talk about your feelings and your emotions, because I know if I didn't have them people to talk to, I don't think I could cope. I really don't think.
Do you believe that hope plays a part in this as well?
Well, hope does play a part in this, and this is why we're doing this skydive and raising money and raising awareness to people that there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's hard for us as a family, even at this stage, to see that, but it is out there. You just keep going.
Keep the spirits up. Grace, thank you very much for coming down today and talking about William.
Right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now remember, if you would like to donate towards Grace and Andrew Skydive, then you can visit their Just Giving page at www.justgiving.com/grace-balance. Seamus McCabe, the CEO of PIPS in Newry and Mourne, joins me now to tell us about the support that they provide in the Newry and Mourne and the southern region. Seamus, you're very welcome to the programme.
Thank you, Roy.
So I want to kick off just by asking you, for anybody who doesn't understand what PIPS in Newry and Mourne does, what do you do at PIPS in Newry and Mourne?
Well, first of all, I'll just explain what PIPS stands for. It's the Public Initiative for the Prevention of Suicide and Self-Harm. So our organisation has been going now from 2003. We've just passed our 11th year in the community. We offer a broad range of support services for people who are actively suicidal, for preventative issues for people who may become suicidal through training, and again, unfortunately, for people, post-prevention support services for people who have been bereaved by suicide. We're based at the moment, so we are at 30 Kilmurray Street, Newry, although we've recently purchased new premises in Mill Street, which we hope to move in sometime next year. We have a team of 5 that are actually employed, a strong board, and we have got a number of sessional counsellors, 7, who can provide professional services right across the Southern Trust area, and particularly Newry and Mourne. Again, for suicide prevention, we do a lot of training. We train the community, a lot of them are community-based models, and we would deliver training like assist training, which is applied suicide intervention skills training, a two-day approved programme. We deliver it in partnership with the health bodies, the trusts. We deliver mental health first aid training, again 2 days. We deliver safe talk training, be positive training. We buy in a lot of training. We've got autism training this weekend. So we look at what's needed in the community, and then we deliver that level of training to the community as a preventative issue for anyone who may come in contact with someone who's actively suicidal. In addition to that, we also offer immediate drop-in facilities for anybody who wants to drop in, maybe in crisis, don't know where to go. And again, we have got a number of clinical services that we offer. Counselling, take for instance, we offer CBT, which is cognitive behavioural therapy, person-centred counselling, psychotherapy, psychodrama, art therapy, complementary therapy. And all of those services are provided free at the point of contact for a period of 12 weeks through funding from the PHA and a cocktail of other funders that we have. So there's a lot going on, a lot of support. We have in-house partners. So we don't just see ourselves as being the only people who have the answers. So our partners who deliver their services for the community within our premises are Parenting NI, Nexus for sexual abuse, Adopt Northern Ireland for eating distress, Dunlewy gambling abuse for people who've got a gambling addiction problem, Dunlewy substance abuse for people who've got an alcohol addiction problem, and we're widening that, so there's other organisations that may be coming on board and provide a level of service. So it's a one-stop shop.
And
so
there's a whole range of things there that you provide for the local community. Now I want to talk about the definition of suicide, and I picked this up on your website. It says, when pain exceeds the coping resources, suicidal feelings are the result. Tell me about this.
Well, that's one of the definitions. There's a number of different definitions, and one of the other ones that comes to mind is, it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. It's sometimes, and particularly young males, we've identified them there as a targeted group because we hear a lot about young males who are dying by suicide. And again, it's whenever they make a decision on something, they usually use an aggressive means of dying, which means there's no coming back from it. But there's a number of definitions. But really and truly what it's saying is, that your coping strategies, your level of resilience, what you have, may not be strong enough to cope with it and deal with the situations, the life events that you've now come in contact with. And that can pose a problem to you if you haven't got any resources that can get you into a better place.
And this is where PIPS come in, because they provide those resources there.
We are one of the providers of those resources, yes. There's, as I said, we have a number of different partners. There's a number of other organisations, but in this community we would see ourselves, yes, as a professional body who can provide that level of support and service as needed.
So what can someone do if they find themselves in that situation? Do they phone? Do they email? Can they drop in?
Yes. Now, we're not a 24/7 service. Unfortunately, we don't have the remit for that. We don't have the capacity for that as we stand. What we do is we have an answering services 24/7, and it links you to Lifeline. And the Lifeline number for anybody who is in crisis and needs service outside of the 9 to 5 services that we provide is 0808 808 8000. That will take them directly to the Lifeline number. For our services we can provide, which is also a drop-in, but again Monday to Friday, and on occasion weekends and evenings, but the number we have is 028 302 66195.
Okay.
What I would suggest to someone who's got suicidal ideation is, first and foremost, don't be afraid to ask for help. It's not a weakness, it's actually an inner strength. It's a strong feeling. I mean, sometimes you're overwhelmed by the thoughts and by the concerns. And due to the stigma and the taboos and all the myths and what's out there, it can sometimes prevent us from reaching out and asking for help. What I would say is, if it was a physical problem, if you had a broken arm or a broken limb, you'd have no hesitation asking for help. Well, you should look at this in the same way. Something's been fractured, something needs to be repaired, something needs help to be repaired with. So look at it the same way you would look at a physical pain and seek the help for it. You will get the help once you seek it. If we haven't got the resources that you need, we'll do a risk assessment on you, and we will identify what resources best suit your needs, and we'll not just signpost you to them, we'll link you with them. But again, if it's outside the Irish, you can go to A&E. You can go to A&E at any time, so you can with the same thoughts. You may have to wait a while, but you will get a clinical risk assessment completed. You can phone 999. It's not just for fires and ambulance service and car accidents. If you think someone's actively suicidal and they need help and support, phone 999, explain what the problem is. You can phone Lifeline. There's a number of different organisations that provide services that are 24/7, the Samaritans. Get in touch with the Samaritans. So don't be afraid to ask for help, but even use family members. What I would say is use a mature family member rather than, somebody who's younger. So maybe look at uncles and aunts, cousins, family members, friends, your father, your mother, and speak to them. But don't remain silent and don't remain isolated and on your own.
Even tell one person.
Tell one person how you're feeling, and don't ever ask them to swear up to secrecy. Maybe ask them, be part of the process for your healing and how to help you get that level of support. But you're asking someone to sign up to secrecy, don't tell anyone else, means that you're not getting all the resources that you need, and you're putting them in a very vulnerable position as well.
So you're in a better position if you don't say that to anybody then?
No, what we say is, don't sign up to secrecy. You can be more, just be part of the process of the healing. But definitely not. Don't ask them to sign up.
Now, your therapy that you offer within PIPS, tell me a bit about that.
Well, as I said, we offer a number of different therapies. Counselling, for instance, now we've got an employed psychotherapist called Biggie Hoffman. She's amazing. She's been very good. She's been with us now for about 18 months, but she's had 25, 30 years experience as a clinical counsellor. And in addition to Biggie, we have got CBT, which is cognitive behavioural therapy, and that seems to be taken off big time. It's been promoted a lot, so it is by the health bodies. And we find that a lot of people are looking forward to that now, so they are. So we've got a waiting list for that as it stands. We've got person-centred counselling. We've got a number of different person-centred counsellors. We've got 4. So we can link you with a person-centred counsellor.
And it's important to note as well that all of those therapies are free.
All of them are free.
Free.
And the art therapy for children, complementary therapy, and we've also got computerised CBT. We've just recently achieved the award from the Beating the Blues, which the GPs put out, but we also have the ability now to give that out to our clients so they can do their own CBT at home.
Okay, good.
So that's a good one as well.
Fantastic. Now, there's a quote as well that I've picked up, is don't accept it if someone tells you that that's not enough to be suicidal, as in minor issues that they may be having. Now, what I find remarkable about PIPS is that the understanding that you have for the whole range of spectrum for whatever issue that you're having, that PIPS is there, no matter how minor you may think this is.
Yeah, you must appreciate, your level of resilience and your coping strategies may be different from mine. So I may get myself in a life situation that I'm finding difficult to deal with, and you're looking on and saying, well, that's not a problem, but it is a problem. It's a problem for me. So for you to minimise my pain is disrespecting me. So I'm feeling disrespected the minute you said that to me. So I'm feeling probably worse than I was feeling, because this is something that everybody else can deal with, and you're minimising my pain. So obviously, I shouldn't be feeling that way. There's something wrong with me, So when you minimise someone else's pain like that, you're showing them total disrespect, and you're not giving them the resources that they need. They need to feel that they're a valued member of the community, that you're listening to them with respect, that they need to feel that they're being supported by you because they've said something to you. They've opened up to you. So they've got some level of respect for you, that they've shared that information with you. And that might have been a big step. So never, ever, ever minimise the pain, and never make it about yourself. Never turn around and say, you think that's bad. You want to have to see what I have to put up with. Because you're assuming that your problems are bigger than theirs, and they shouldn't have nothing to deal with. and it's making them feel a lot more vulnerable. So we do appreciate that, and we do understand that everybody's level of resilience and coping strategies is different. So we don't share the understand that, that just get over it. Because a lot of people just can't get over it.
So it's about listening, it's about understanding, no matter what the situation that they find themselves
and showing
in.
respect and understanding, yes.
Are there any warning signs for friends and family to look out for someone who may be feeling suicidal?
Well, there is. Again, I'm not going to be able to explain those warning signs to you in the space of a few minutes. As I said, we've got workshops and training that we deliver on a regular basis. The assist training in particular, well, it's a 2-day workshop. Now, that training will sort of clue you into what you need to be looking for, what you need to be saying, how you can engage and how you can stay engaged, and how you can resource and how you can connect. All of that's done in a 2-day workshop. But briefly, what it does do is it tells you that there's certain things you can look out for. There's certain things that maybe that you know about the person that is concerning to you. So how do you address that? How do you confront it? What do you need to do? How do you connect with the person? Then what it does is, once you've connected with a person and you've realised that suicide is probably part of what the problem is, how to stay connected and how to talk about suicide and what's going on. Then it's about listening then. It's about listening to their dying side and their living side, their reasons for dying, because we have to listen to what is going on in their lives, because all we want to do is talk about the reasons for living. So we need to listen and give them the respect of understanding where they are, and you may have to go there for a wee bit of time. And then when you've done that there, it's all about, is understanding the risk that's involved and the resources and how you get that. Now, that's a very, very, very quick synopsis of what it is. As I said, it's a full 2-day workshop. But basically what you want to do is you want to identify with the person that there's something going on. Let the person know you've identified with that. Let them know that you see it. Because sometimes people can be irrational and not realise. And it takes someone to say to them before they understand, right, okay, I hear what you're saying now. But what I would advise people is that if you know of anyone who's got suicidal ideation or contemplating suicide, or you've got concerns around maybe family members, contact us about the training. There's a Safe Talk programme. If you can't make the 2 days, there's a Safe Talk programme, which is a condensed version of it for 3 hours. We've got a number of those programmes run on a fortnightly basis. So you can sign up to any of those and you'll have something that'll help you work with someone else.
So support is available there
very much.
for friends and family of someone who may be feeling suicidal as well.
very
Fantastic.
much.
Seamus, thank you very much for coming into us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Again, I just want to say that if anybody does need any help or support, check out our website, www.pipsnewyearmorn.org. And again, our contact number again is 028 302 66195. Thank you, Rory.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for coming in today.
Thank you very much for doing this.
And here are all the details once again of the Pips in Newry and Mourne.
We're a digital solution company with our headquarters in Ireland. We have, with colleagues in the United States, in Hungary and in India, developed what we believe to be the most cost-effective, the most simple to implement digital signage solution for every type of business that wants to increase sales and add to the quality of experience for their customer and their audience. Digital signage is just a fancy phrase for a method of displaying your product or services on devices and screens, televisions as well, engaging with your customer and helping your customer understand exactly what you do, what services you provide, and how your customer can access the same. And it all happens through the simplicity of this little box. If you're a retail business anywhere in the world, contact us and get a free digital signage trial. Now, to see how we power local internet television, please go to the aboutdestinationnewry.com channel. And to review or join our business network, please go to the Local Business Network channel. Thank you.
I'm Krista, I'm 15, and I just finished 10th grade. My favorite thing in the entire world is music. My goal is perhaps to get to college with music, maybe join the college marching band. My friend called me one night, and I know that she was having some issues with her dad. Her dad just got back from Iraq, and I knew there were some problems. And she was saying things like, I don't know what to do anymore. I really just want to run away right now. I want to disappear. I thought she was going to do something bad to herself. I thought she meant disappear as in forever. She told me that everyone would be better off without her. She never said explicitly that she was having thoughts about suicide, but I was so scared. I didn't want anything at all to happen to her. I had a feeling that she wanted it to stay a secret. I felt that I needed to be there for her, and the way that I needed to do it was to go to someone else because I didn't know what I needed to do. The next day at school, I went to the counselor's office and I sat down and I told her my friend's story. She told me that what I really needed to do right now is to be a friend for her, let her know that I would be there for her. My friend has gotten some counseling. She's so much better. She's gotten into a lot of extracurricular activities. She's a lot more open with me. I think I've gained a lot more of her trust. It never ever hurts to tell an adult. It always helps to go to someone else. If you hear someone talking about suicide or taking their life, don't keep it a secret and don't ignore it. Take all talk of suicide seriously and take action. Tell an adult and get help for a friend. My friend is alive because I reached out to help.
John Mallon joins me now, and John Mallon is from Belfast. He's going to share his story and experiences through suicide prevention and good mental health. John, you're very welcome along to the programme. Thank you for coming down to us.
Thank you.
So before we talk about your experiences that you have went through, I want to go back to roughly about 16 years ago when you said that you started having these signs and you realised that things weren't right. Now, before this, was there any signs at all before this, thinking back?
No, you see, whenever I was sort of, you know, when you have quiet times and you sort of reflect on this journey and all this stuff that happened, you know, I started thinking back to when, trying to analyse it in my head, when the signs started to come in. I always had a very busy life, but things kind of slowed down a wee bit. And then that's when I noticed it could have been happening before it, but I never really picked up on it.
But you're too busy to realise.
It was roughly now 17 years. It came in. I started noticing the signs, but at that time, you know, I kind of laughed them off. I would turn around and go, catch yourself on, ways up.
Yeah. What were the signs that you started to notice?
Just negative thoughts in my head. Different wee thoughts coming through my head. Like, you know. Kill yourself and do things like that, wee stupid things, and you know. And I was just anybody that knows me would know. You know, I mean, I've worked on doors and nightclubs and stuff like that, so they all knew this big heart John Mallon, and people, everybody, you know, when anything was ever happening in the community, I was always kind of involved, helping. You know? So people always knew Big John Mallon. You know, so this was probably my very first mistake, was that I kind of just laughed it off and pushed it to one side and just got on with things. But you know, through the years, then it progressively became a lot worse.
I mean, the image that you were putting on to the people that knew you and the public was that you were Big Smiley John, that everything was okay. Why do you think you were doing this?
Well, I wouldn't say I was Big Smiley John, because you know, people would say, I'm not going to mess about with John and things like that. But you know, I say at the start I kind of laughed it off. You know, I kind of catch yourself on, ways up and all.
You didn't take it seriously then?
No, I didn't, and that was my first big mistake, because you know, whenever the illness had sort of started to show its signs, if I had took that time, and I would say this to anybody, if you get the signs, go then and ask for help.
Regardless of how small you may think they are.
Yeah, because, you know, I regard myself as being lucky. I had a terrible battle through life, through this period. And when people talk about pain, I can assure you it was very, very severe pain going through my body. Like I said to people, you know, I mightn't have had one of these terrible tumours that people get diagnosed with, but I most certainly was going through pain. I was suffering. I was dying a slow death.
The pain of mental health is real.
Oh, it's very, very real, and it's very, I mean, it's, since I have become so public about this whole thing, the amount of people that I've actually met, you know, who are going through it, or who have went through it, I mean, they say now, I mean, Lifeline, when I did a bit of work for Lifeline there, they said one in four people who say it, probably 1 in 3. You know, I would say that's probably right, 1 in 3, because no matter where I go now, and because I've been so open about this, whenever I get into a conversation, be it with males or females, it comes out. You know, it comes out.
I mean, going back to that time when you were feeling those experiences that were going on, you says that you felt that you had no one to talk to, yet you had friends and family. I mean, why do you think that you felt that you had no one to talk to?
Because my own stupidity, trying to hide it. I have the most adorable children and the most adorable family, and I have some fantastic, great friends. But because I was so desperate and so because everybody knew Big John, and I wanted to keep that image, you know, that I wanted to hide it. So, as I say, I suffered it. It was going, it was like you were on a slippery slope, and you were just gradually, your feet was going from beneath you. You know, 17 years ago, as I said, it didn't start off really bad, but as the years progressed, I knew that I was starting to lose the fight. Even though I kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going, and everybody just seen Big John. I mean, as I say, sometimes, when my darkest times, I would have got up and came out of the house and went to a supermarket and walked around a supermarket, but that wasn't to buy anything. That was because I wanted to get away from it. And I found, you know, if I'm walking around a supermarket, I'm not on my own.
How did you feel? I mean, what was going through your head whenever you're walking around there?
Just the really dark thoughts, and the really negative thoughts were coming into your head, and it was coming. Like at the start, it was coming maybe now and again, but then it just kept coming. It kept coming at me and at me and at me, you know, and it just, you know, so as much as I tried my best to fight it, it just kept coming, and it got gradually worse. And then I made another big mistake, was that at night time, even though I had a busiest life, at night time I would have took alcohol. This was to help me sleep, but it was another big mistake, because when I woke up in the morning, not only was I suffering from a hangover, I was suffering from depression, I was suffering from my suicidal thoughts. So it just made my day even worse. So, I mean, it was just, it was a battle a day to survive.
Yeah, I mean, you said that it's an invisible pain.
Oh, it is.
It's inside of you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's in your head. It's just, it takes over in so many different ways. It controls your life. I mean, I know I have friends, because I do the photography, I have accumulated an awful lot of friends, and I know there's a lot of friends of mine who, through their mental health, don't leave the house, they won't leave home, but because I share the photographs, they've got that wee bit of contact with the outside world.
Yeah.
You know, and
there was a time, though, that you said 7 years ago you knew you had reached a point that you believed that your life was going to end, and you even went around your friends and family to say goodbye.
Well, it was probably, it would have been, well, I know the information I gave you, but it was probably around about 8 years ago, 8.5 years ago. But basically, as I say, the illness had taken over. I was slowly losing the battle. I knew that no matter what I tried to do, but because I was trying to hide it, you know, I was probably making things worse for myself, because I was fighting this on my own, trying my best to hide it. And I had some very, very dark moments, very dark times, and I just got up one morning and I just said, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to die.
And that's when you went to the crossroads in your life?
Yeah, well, basically what happened was I visited my children that day. I went around the house and they just thought Daddy had called in to see them, and they were all happy, and I joked and give them hugs and give the kids hugs and stuff like that there. And then I went and seen my mum, and I just called in, and she just, as mums do, fuss on you, and do you want something to eat, do you want this, do you want that, how are you, and stuff like that there. And she just thought her lovely big son was in to see her. But the truth was, I was going to say cheerio to them. I was saying my goodbyes. How
did that feel in those moments?
Very, very sorrowful, very, very low. A lot of pain in it, even though I had to put this big false image up. Inside I was crying out. I was the pain that I was going through at that time. Looking at your children and knowing probably in the next 24 hours you're going to be dead, is immense. It's just so immense, and it's so horrible. So I went home, and I still fought with myself and tried to reason with myself and tried to do it. But the next morning I got up and I just knew this is it.
And then from there you drove through the crossroads, and that was the time where you had a choice in your life.
Yes. Well, I got into the car. I had everything ready. To the end of my life. I drove a short distance and I got to a crossroads. To my left was where I was going to die. I had everything ready to die, and it was actually a beauty spot where I used to often go for walks. And to my right was a chance to live. I remember sitting in the car, like starting to roll back a wee bit and stuff. But I was still trying my best to fight and trying to battle. And I don't know where it came from, and I don't know how it came from. But it's probably because of the love I have for my children and my family that I managed to turn the wheel right. And I drove a short distance to a place on the Shankill Road called Fassa. I mean, I live in a nationalist community, but I mean, that means nothing to me because I've worked with all kinds of people.
You said that was hard for you to turn right, to still continue to drive down that road.
I grabbed. It was like turning the wheel, but it was like turning the wheel that was like lead. It was very, very hard to turn. But I gradually got the wheel to turn, and I drove a short distance, as I say. I drove down the Shankill Road, down to a place called Fassa, and I said, I'll slip in here, nobody will know me, and I'll get the help.
What exactly is Fassa?
Fassa is a suicide prevention organisation.
Okay.
Fantastic organisation. Very, very helpful with all kinds of problems with mental health, and also drug addiction and stuff like alcohol and drug addiction.
And then from there you went to a friend in Pips.
Yeah. Well, when I went into Fassa, I met a guy called Alec Bunting, and it's very important because I met Alec. Me and Alec had a chat. He was very, very helpful, and I do believe he saved my life that day. But when I left, I just kind of knew that I needed to talk to a friend. So I contacted my friend Philip McTaggart in Pips. Philip's known me a long time, very, very well. He's always known me about. And I'll never forget the day when I walked into the room and Philip says, come on in, we'll sit and have a chat here. And Philip thought I was in to ask for help for somebody else, one of my family members or stuff, And Philip was sitting on the chair facing me, and I just said, he says to me, John, who are you in for help for? And I says, me. And I never forget, his head just came right up, and he looked straight at me. And he says, never in a million years.
He wouldn't have realised.
Never in a million years would I ever believe that you would have asked for help. And I says, well, yes, me, Big John Mallon, needs help.
How did it feel after telling someone?
There was a relief. There was a sense of relief that was like, it's out, it's there. I've opened the door, I've took the step. And,
How important is that first step?
Massive. It's massive.
Vital.
It's massive. It's massive. But what I find is, what I think is we have to try our best to make it as easy for people. We need to make it really, really. I've spoke to people, and they've contacted me, and it's coming. But you just have to give them that time to let them say it to you. Let them know that you're there. You don't have to lecture people. You don't have to tell people. You just have to be a good listener, and let them know you're there for them.
And from there, the journey begins, and you said it's not an easy journey, but it's a very worthwhile journey.
No, well, the thing is, I mean, if you're going to deal with an illness or a sickness, then be prepared to you know, be prepared to go through some sad times, you know, but the thing is, when you're going through the illness and you're fighting the illness and you're being open about it, you're letting it out. It's like any poison, it's like anything, you know, if you have a boil and you bust it, the poison starts to come out. Well, you know, this was like a big boil to me, like a bit of like poison. And the more I spoke about it, the more I felt that I was releasing it. The more it was coming out of me. I was starting to get a better understanding of myself, you know, why the thoughts were there, you know, and stuff like that.
And it improved from there because you started to think about the things that made you happy and brought you pleasure and began to feel good about yourself. So, I mean, what were those things that started to begin this process?
Well, you see, when you go through the counselling, there's sort of, you're set on a set time about how many sessions you're going to have and stuff like that there. And the woman that helped me, Lena Farrell, she was a fantastic, wonderful person. So she was. She really, really went out of her way to help me. But as I progressively started to feel that wee bit better and that these thoughts coming in, you know, I started thinking, right, okay, you need to start doing things that you love doing. But you always sort of, you know, thinking about different things. And I said, well, I love going for walks, but I also I've always had this leg for photography. So I managed to scrape a couple of pound together and I got myself a kind of a half-decent camera. And I started taking my camera out for walks with me around the countryside and going to different places. And you know, we live in a fantastic, beautiful place. So we do, and we're gifted. I mean, down around this place, it's Newry Mourns is a fantastic, beautiful place, and I spend an awful lot of time down around Carlingford and all around. But I mean.
And then from there, you started posting your photographs on Facebook, and your friends began to comment on them.
Yeah, well, as I started posting the photographs, people were starting to make some lovely comments about it, and then it encouraged me to go out more and take more photographs. It encouraged me to go out to the countryside more, because when I knew when I went back, I was going to post the photographs and I was going to get nice comments, which made me feel good. You know, people were often saying to me, John, you need to take us further, John. You take lovely shots, John. You're you know, all this type of stuff.
Do you think you can relate this to anything that someone's passionate about?
Yeah.
That if once they find it, just go for it and encourage to follow your dreams.
Well, I mean, I involved myself with bog oak classes, and I have to say, you know, I've done some good bog oak, but people would say, but see, just communicating with people and talking to people, it's key to everything. Locking yourself away on your own in a house is not good, you know. And I mean, there's running clubs, there's sports clubs. I'm sure there's good running clubs down here, and I know through my experience back up in Belfast, you know, I've tied in with people who are in running clubs through working with mental health, that they take people in who have had mental health problems, and then they gradually work with them, and then the next thing they're running the marathon. So anything's possible.
Anything at all. And for you, it was photography.
Yes.
You said that it helps you to see the world better.
Oh, well, you know, I see things now that I didn't see. If you can understand it, I must have been walking about with a pair of glasses that I couldn't see things, because I notice things now. People say I've got a good eye, and people say I've got things, but I would notice the slightest wee things, you know, and I would stop and look, and people say to me, "How'd you see that?" You know, and it's things like that. So as the photography progressed and the good comments progressed, people often said to me, "Why don't you have an exhibition?" And I said, you know, but see, the problem is our biggest enemy is our own self-doubt.
Right.
You know.
How did you overcome that?
Well, I got a bit of work with Universal Studios on the new Dracula film, which is coming out here in October. It was a £100 million film. I was lucky enough. I made some good friends, and the people who were in charge kind of asked me to follow them around the locations. There's different locations in the country. So I gradually became friends with a lot of people, but anybody with a camera, if they don't introduce themselves to me, I'm going to introduce myself to them. And there was one guy called Niall, and he looked at the photographs and he says to me, "You're a photographer." Well, when he said it, I have to say, there was a glow. There was a glow inside me because it made me feel good. But then I met this man, Jason Boland, and Jason was working on a £100 million film. He was the stills photographer. So you can guess how much of a professional man he is. And he says to me, can I have a look at your work? And I says, well, yes, okay, no problem. Certainly. So I started showing him some of the work. And when I showed him it, he just put his thumbs up and he says, go for it. He says, definitely, go for it. So through this here, that really encouraged me. And then I was asked to bring the exhibition to different places.
Yeah.
And
now you said that the reason for your exhibition is to show people and to send a message. What message is that?
Well, there is a view to better mental health through the lens of a camera, but it doesn't have to be through a camera. It can be through sport, it can be through music, it can be through laughter. You know, I have an idea in my head, and I've always had this idea in my head, and I think, because I mean, I said to tell you, that, you know, when the terrible outbreak of AIDS came about, you know, we had this big massive concert, and whenever Live Aid was on, and for Africa, we had this big, mental health is killing. In Europe alone, last year, it's estimated there was 3,000 plus people took their own lives. If you quantify that across the world, then, you know, so me, who an unknown person with a camera, was able in 3 weeks to bring 1,600 people to an exhibition over 3 weeks. Now, I know a lot of the people went to the exhibition, didn't just go to have a look at the photographs. They came to hear the story. They came to see the work. You know, and every single photograph I take is very precious to me. I've probably got 80,000 photographs, but I can tell every single photograph.
How has photography changed your life?
Massively, massively. Like everybody, you still have your stressful days. You know, like when the wee book that I brought out with the exhibition, the work that went into the wee book was an awful lot of work went into it. But you know, when you're dealing with people who are publishing books and stuff like that, we had agreed £1,200 for the book, and then the next thing I get a phone call the day before the deadline, and it says £1,500. Well, I mean, there was steam coming out of my ears because I had begged people for money. I'm unemployed, and I just had went round everybody and asked them to sponsor me and, you know, help me to do this. And the guy says £1,500, and I went, hold on. I says, we sat for 2 days, work this out. And he says to me, well, you know, we can use cheaper paper and we can do this. And I says, no, that's not the case. So he says, I'll ring you back tomorrow. I went, right on. So I went home, and obviously I wasn't like a bear with a sore head. And that's the only way I could probably describe myself. And I walked into the house, and you know, when you lift your lead, the dog jumps up and down. I lift my camera, and the dog jumps up and down because the dog knows he's going out for a walk. So I went up on the hills at 5:45 that evening, and I came down at 10:30, 11:15 that night. And whenever I put my memory card into the reel, I had took 549 photographs. But that was like the steam. The steam was coming out of the kettle. You know, the boiler had blew, and it was just gradually becoming thing. And the guy phoned me the next day, and he just said to me, £1,250. And I went, you know, but I knew what I needed to do. I needed to go out for a walk with my camera. And
and that's how you found it. How important is hope for you?
There's a lot of hope out there. There's a lot of fantastic, beautiful people. Just recently, in the last couple of weeks, I've met some fantastic people from Newry and Mourne. Really humanitarian, lovely people.
And it's important to have hope whenever you're experiencing the feelings inside you, the negative feelings.
Well, one thing I'd always say to people, when there's life, there's hope. You know, hold on to the life. It mightn't be good, it may be terrible, but when there's life, there's hope. Because when the life ends, there is no hope. I mean, as I say, one of the most important things I ever seen was a young girl in a black and white photograph holding a piece of cardboard and saying, suicide doesn't take away the pain, it just gives it to someone else. And that's true. I mean, that's very, very true.
Yeah, and you attended the Spirit of Northern Ireland Awards this year, but you said, and it's remarkable, the only award I ever want to do and to know is that I've helped someone suffering in silence.
Oh yes, that's. I mean, it was wonderful. It was beautiful to get the award, and I can't thank my friend Carleen who nominated me. She's a counsellor, and she's worked. The people she's helped. I mean, she should have got the award. She should have got the award. The people who are helping the people to get through that they should have got the award. And when I said I got the award, I took the award for them, but I also took the award for the sufferers. But I mean, when somebody, for me, when a man walks up to me on New Year's night, and he puts his hand on my shoulder and he says to me, "John, thanks very much." And I look at him and I go, "You okay?" And he goes, "No, thanks very much." And I knew the man, and I knew the man had been through a lot of pain in his life, but he was looking remarkably well. And he says, "You made me go and ask for help." That's the best present ever.
That's what it's for.
That made my new year.
And finally, just what is your message to anyone who may be experiencing the feelings of suicidal thoughts within them?
Please don't suffer in silence. There's fantastic people there who want to help. There is men's sheds. There's fantastic organisations there. I support them all. And there is help. And no matter how bad and how low you think it is, I came within seconds to end my life. And thankfully I didn't. I gave away my oldest daughter in marriage. I have 6 fantastic grandchildren, and I have another one on the way. If I had took that decision that day, none of them things would have happened. I wouldn't have seen any of them things. My children would have been showing them photographs of their granda. You know, my daughter would have been getting married and her daddy wouldn't have been there to give her away. But thankfully I took the decision, and thankfully I went and asked for help. And no matter how bad you may think things are, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and there's people there to help you. And if I can help, I'll most certainly do my utmost to help anybody.
You certainly are.
Thank you.
You certainly are through your photography.
Thanks very much, Robert.
Thank you very much for coming in to talk to us.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much to John for joining us in the studio to share your story, and to all my other guests, Grace from Kilkeel and Seamus from Pips in Newry and Mourne. What they did this evening was give the inspiration and hope to you out there to find and seek the help and support that is available. And the most powerful lesson, which has been a trend throughout this evening, is that the important step to take is to tell someone how you feel, whether that be a teacher, a friend, a counsellor. There is someone to talk to, and just speaking to one person allows these feelings to be real and to be open. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week on Friday evening.